I do want to emphasize real quickly that home ownership is one of the most beneficial and crucial financial decisions anybody will ever make in their entire lives. It is the number one financial differentiator in the entire country. If you're renting or you're buying, you are increasing or decreasing your net value and almost completely either developing or erasing your retirement plan.
Welcome back to another loan officer spotlight. And on the other end of the spectrum from the last episode where I knew the guest incredibly well, I just met today's guest. And so I'm excited to have a conversation just like you listening to this, not knowing anything about this gentleman, but I am going to go ahead and tell you that for the first time, Barrett, I have recorded and shot probably over 1,000 podcast episodes in my career, and I've never had anybody ask me if we could say a prayer before we started recording. That was unique. I respect that. I love that about you. That obviously is going to drive some of this conversation today. So thank you for doing that. That was really awesome. Barrett Herminghaus, coming from Rhode Island, the massive state of Rhode Island.
Yeah.
Very new to USA Mortgage. Welcome to the show, my friend.
Hey, thanks, man. I appreciate it. It's good. I'm glad to be here.
Well, good. So let's get started with the about you. Obviously, I've already kind of teased it a little bit, but let's rewind it a little bit. So you tell us about how you got into the mortgage business and then kind of what led you to where you are today.
Well, it was one of those fall in the lap things. Like no one, when I wrote my, yearbook at graduating high school, it was like, hey, I want to become a loan officer. No, it was actually one of those things where, someone had mentioned that I would be really good at it. I was actually a pedicab driver. And if you're from Rhode Island, this is a big deal in Newport, where like in the summertime, we were like, it was like the groundhog. When we started pedicabbing, summer was there. So like people got really excited for us. And I did that full time. I was in the best shape of my life, but at the same time, it was a summer gig, right? So like, what am I going to do? Right? Am I going to just do this every year until I'm 80 years old? And so my good friend Ryan Bruff, shout out to Ryan, he said, you know what, I think that you'd be a good loan officer. And I joined him at his company at the time, and 12 years later, the rest is history.
So we need to digress for a second because I guarantee not everybody listening to this knows what pedicabbing is. Explain.
Oh, yeah, no, okay. So a pedicab driver is one of those people that would have one of those bike taxis, like those giant tricycles, and then people would get drunk and like, oh, this will be a lot of fun, and so we just kind of roll people around and have a good conversation. But it's a little bit different in Newport. Newport, it's like it was a culture icon, not like New York City or Washington D.C., like where it's everywhere. There was only 12 of us around, and we were well known at the time, so it was a good time.
That's really awesome, man. And so as you talk about, when you use the word cab, of course, the first thing I think of is automobile, right? And then I think Uber, and I think about maybe not even Waze, where it's AI driven. This is totally off the cuff, but I feel like pedicabbing will never be replaced by AI or a robot. Do you agree with that?
No, no, but see, you survive purely off of pizza and beer, and that's the gas mileage, and that's what you need to be a pedicab driver. So.
Well, if anybody ever thinks about how not to lose their job, there is one industry that you might want to consider.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Okay, so 12 years in the business. Tell us a little bit about that journey.
Well, I mean, it's been a journey. We've experienced a lot of market shifts. Since I started. We've been through three presidents so far, and everyone had their own economic plan, and there was different programs that came out. But essentially, I started in a call center. It was a call center gig, taking inbound calls. Mostly refinances. The leads were provided for me, and then further on down my career path, and I was pretty successful as an inbound call loan officer. But it wasn't until about 4 years ago that I really started getting into retail, where I had to meet referral realtors and things of that nature, and that's a whole other animal. a whole other business model from top down, or even from bottom up for that matter, because you have to make sure that you're doing the best that you can for your referral partners. And that was a new land for me to venture in. And I've learned a lot from that experience. And 4 years into this retail journey, and we had one of the biggest crashes that we've ever experienced in the mortgage world. I've learned a lot about myself and about me trusting in God, and it's been a really, really cool journey.
Yeah, and you mentioned that again, faith, effectively, and I know that when you and we talked a little bit as we were prepping for this, and you kind of talk about what your day looks like, and that's where it starts. And so, before you tell me a little bit about that, tell me where have you always been this way? Have you always been just have a very strong faith, or was there something in your life that kind of caused that shift or caused that realization or whatever you want to call it?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I lament to say that I was not always a man of the faith. And it took me almost dying for me to become a man of the faith. Up until 2019, you can characterize myself as a, you know, very arrogant, prideful person. I had, not to get too much into it, but it is part of my story, and I think it is important. But much of addiction was involved with that, and I just my life came to a crashing halt. And then so I the Lord caught me, when I was dying from Lyme disease, and He brought me out, and it's been a completely different animal. It's been a new life, and it's wonderful. And I invite anyone to give Jesus a shot.
That's awesome, man. That's inspirational. And I'm sure that story goes deep. And honestly, I would encourage you to, if you don't already, share it more often. Be vulnerable, because there's a lot of people out there that need to hear it.
Yeah,
And so not everybody gets that second chance, and that's
right.
exactly effectively what happened to you,
Yeah.
which kind of led you to, what your day looks like. So tell us a little bit about that.
So my day, it's pretty busy. It's a pretty busy day now. I have a lot going on, but I try my absolute best to get up early in the morning, and do my devotionals, go to the gym. I really need my time with God before I start my day, because I know that there's a lot of requirement for my day. Now, there's a lot more responsibility than just working. I mean, that's the thing. Like people get up in the day, they have their cup of coffee, and then they just let me work. But it's different when you want to work to the best of your ability, when you want to talk to people in a way that is honoring to them, loving to them, and you need God, you need help with that. And so that was like one of the key things for me. So if I need to have my morning devotional, and then around 8 o'clock in the morning all the way to the end of the night, man, I'm working. I'm dialing for dollars, as they say in the industry. But also with that, I'm actually going to school full time over at Spurgeon College and Midwestern Baptist Theological Seminary to hopefully get a master's in divinity degree as well. And on top of that, I'm working with my church and stuff like that. So pretty busy day for me. But hey, I get that one day a week on Sundays where I can rest, relax, recharge, worship the Lord, and get that day that I need to get my rest.
So what does that mean when you say a master in divinity? And I'm going to preface that question by saying you're talking to a guy who's got four, one deceased, but four pastors in
Yeah.
my family of the Lutheran faith. Very,
Uh-huh.
very stout Lutheran family, but German, you could probably appreciate.
Yeah.
So I understand like the seminary and doing those sorts of things to become a pastor, but I've never heard a master in divinity. What does that mean?
So it's essentially if you go to college, you get your bachelor's, you get your master's, with certain specialties and things of that nature. You would get your bachelor's, let's say, for example, in biblical counseling, which is what I'm actually doing right now, currently, with my goal to get my master's in divinity. But essentially, a master's in divinity at a well-to-do college, you should be able to walk out and say, "I know what the Bible says. I know exactly what the Bible says, and I now want to give the Bible to others as it says."
So what do you do with that?
Well, I mean, yeah, at the end of the day, my goal is to become a pastor.
Okay.
That's my, if you ask me like my 5-10 year plan, that's my plan.
Awesome. Awesome. Is the long-term plan to do both?
I have been thinking about that for some time. I have 5 years of school to do my mortgaging from my work, and then figuring it out from there, and kind of just letting it go from there. I can't see that far in the future right now, so I can't give a definitive answer for that.
I love it. I love it. There's a way to scale that, just so you know. So
Yeah,
that's another conversation for
right.
another day.
AI,
Yeah,
here we go. Right.
well, not no, not even necessarily, but yeah, that's a coaching session in and of itself. Effectively, what a lot of top producers do, which is try to scale themselves out of the business and focus on what they're great at. And frankly, I've got several friends who went the other route. They were pastors first, and then they shifted into either
Interesting.
mortgage, real estate, or now in my space, in the social media space. I've got several friends who stand on stages alongside me and teach and speak and do all the things that I do, and they came from, which makes sense
Hmm.
because they're used to standing in front of a congregation, right?
Right.
It
Right.
made them good at this. But yeah, funny how that works, man. That's awesome. I don't know you obviously other than today, so but I'm proud of you, man. I'm glad to hear what you're accomplishing, and I
Thank you.
think you're well on your way. So
Thank you.
you mentioned dialing for dollars, which typically means you're calling leads. And you also mentioned that you've made that shift into the different world. So for those of you that aren't familiar, obviously in the mortgage world, I always described it as it's very different worlds. There's the dialing for dollars, which is typically consumer facing, and then there's more to the B2B, which is more, it's realtor partners, realtor referral
Hmm.
partners, it's
Hmm.
financial planners, those sorts of things.
Right.
What does that look like for you? So are you shifting? So what is the dialing for dollars? Is it dialing realtors? Is it consumer facing? What is it?
Well, I mean, to me, it's both, right? I mean, after COVID, the way that business is done is a little bit different. Not as many people are going into the office anymore. Not as many people are meeting face to face anymore. There's a more prevalence in social media marketing, over the phone conversations, video marketing, all that kind of stuff. So when I say dialing for dollars, it really is this kind of like new age activity of calling both buyers, prospective buyers, and also new referral partners, realtors, financial planners, builders, whatever you can find you can call to earn more business, get your name out there.
Yeah, yeah, awesome. And so when you are making those calls specifically to, let's just say, a referral partner, what is your value proposition?
That's a great question, right? I mean, and this goes with my story that I was talking about a little earlier. Uh, living as a loan officer before my faith was a much different animal than living as a loan officer after my faith. As I kind of made mention with my devotionals as well. Um, I was always like, so it was always about the sales script in the beginning, right?
Hmm.
Let me call a certain agent and say the certain thing, and get them to have a cup of coffee with me, and then say all these things, and then frog, family relationships, occupations, goals, right? All of that kind of stuff that was there. But at the end of the meeting, meetings at the time, it was the end of 2020. I started feeling just so fake, and I started feeling like that this wasn't me, and not only that, but realtors get these phone calls all the time from
Yeah.
other loan officers. Well, how can I increase that value proposition, like you said? And that's when I was sitting in my office one day, and I said, you know what? I'm going to restart my business from the bottom up, and I'm going to love my neighbor as myself by providing transparent, sincere, diligent care. And when I had that as my vision model, and by the way, my client is both the client, which is the buyer, and the realtor and the financial planner. That really shifted my value proposition, right? So like I'm trying to be sincere. I'm not trying to just sell. I'm trying to love. And that there's a difference between that, because love in its definition is a working without the thought of reciprocity. It's disinterested benefactor, and so when you take a look like that, because like our world is all about, I give you and you give me, right? And that's the problem that we have today, I think, as a culture, is like, no, I'm just going to give,
Hmm.
and if you enjoy what I give, then great. but if not, then I'm glad that you enjoyed that. So that's that value proposition that I had. Now, how does that flesh itself out practically, right? Personal discussions about goals, about marketing plans, about what that particular client or referral partner wants to do, whether you're either buying a house or getting their name out there as a realtor, new realtor, and whatever that would look like, and getting involved with those deep down questions and saying, how can I help you personally meet your goals?
Yeah, man, I love that, man. And I love how you really kind of intertwined like a Bible verse, love thy neighbor, right? And
Yep.
I think that's almost could end up becoming a, a calling card, so to speak.
Yeah.
Almost, it's a brand. I think if you haven't already thought about that, I think that's could be very powerful for you. And I think um, if what I also think is you'll be able to quickly flush out the right partners,
Right.
because as you mentioned, I agree with you. It's about giving and then giving some more and then giving some more and then giving some more. And part of that as a business strategy is that law of reciprocity, but also that it creates a relationship such that you're not constantly begging for business. And
Right.
so that once you've established yourself as a cornerstone in their business or their life, they need you.
Yeah.
Now you can ask, you can almost demand
Yeah.
reciprocity, right? And maybe that's not your ultimate goal, but that's kind of the way I look at it, and that's what I learned just by trial and error. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's so funny. Like, I just want to say, like, right now, like, just take a break. Hey, listen, I'm not perfect by any means. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? We're all in the business right now. It's a tough market out there. So I'm not going to sit here and say I'm holier than thou. Like, I do this perfectly all the time. I got to tell you, I can't remember how many times I read Dale Carnegie's, the Greatest Salesman. Was that the one?
I think so. It sounds about right. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, but I remember reading that earlier on in my career, and I was like, "This guy is describing someone that I'm just not." Like a guy that's so disinterested with himself and so selfless that he just keeps giving and giving and giving. And I had to come to the conclusion that, like, we're not perfect, at the end of the day. But hey, and that's why the motto, sincere, right? Sincere is the word. Sincere development into wanting to be that more and more each day.
How to win friends and influence people.
That's the one. Yes,
Yep.
thank you.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. You bet. Okay, so back to back to the next question that kind of segues into it, which is, as you're working with clients, obviously, nowadays we've got this weird place that we are in our economy, in our world, in our society, in terms of, you've got the Gen X and the baby boomer generations that buying a home was just like that rite of passage. It's what you did. It also going to college, right? Which
Right.
both of those two things have now shifted. The millennial generation is kind of like the transition generation. And now you've got these Gen Zers and the next generation where college is an afterthought. And I don't necessarily blame them. It's too expensive. And then buying a home now is almost a dream. It's not even realistic like it was for older generations. And so what advice are you giving to people that might have that mindset or scarcity mindset of, I'm defeated. There's no way in hell I can own a home anymore.
Move to the Midwest. No.
I didn't wear this hat. I was by accident.
Yeah. No, I mean, especially over here. No, I sympathize with that question a lot. Especially over here in Rhode Island, Massachusetts, Connecticut, housing prices are going way up. Especially closer to the city as you get. So how do you get to that point where you prepare for home ownership? Can you get into home ownership and things of that nature? And there are many different ways in which you can be creative if you need to. And I do want to emphasize real quickly that home ownership is one of the most beneficial and crucial financial decisions anybody will ever make in their entire lives. It is the number one financial differentiator in the entire country. If you're renting or you're buying, you are increasing or decreasing your net value and almost completely either developing or erasing your retirement plan. I mean, it's just you have so much more financial tools available for you if you have a house as an asset, and so that's so important right now. So how do we get more people into houses? That's the question, right? How do we get to that point where even the people with the low credits, with the lower down payments, with the lower incomes getting into the house? Well, there are programs for that are specific to that to help with that situation. But like, I guess like the question could kind of be turned a little bit to like, what advice could you give to someone looking to buy their first home, right? Anybody for that matter. And what I say is either prepare. I mean, I'm sorry. What I say is prepare and execute. Those are the two things at the end of the day, right? So like prepare, what does that look like? Well, I get a lot of phone calls with people that are just, hey, I want to buy a house. Hey, I want to buy a house. Hey, I want to buy a house, right? And I say, great. What have you done to get ready to buy a house? And the answer is always, I haven't really done anything. This is my first time reaching out, and that's a good thing, right? But I want us to get into the mind of, hey, what can you do to prepare yourself to make this important financial transaction? Because if you don't do that, you're running the risk of higher credits. I'm sorry, higher interest rates. Lower credit scores. More expensive programs and things of that nature. So always being available to talk to a loan officer first to prepare for the process. And at least getting yourself ready and at least informed. That's the key. Be informed, read up on it, learn about buying a house first. And then finally, and I think here's the key for everyone involved, execute. There are a lot of voices out there right now in the media, closer relationships and even family members for that sake, that are negative in nature right now, right? I mean, how many times have we heard the media say, oh, we're in a housing bubble right now, and oh, the rates are so high right now, and oh, it's just so terrible, and you know what? You have COVID and the flu, and it's just everything's bad. Listen, people have been negative about home ownership for the longest time, and it's usually the people that don't own houses. It's usually those people that don't want to see built up. Execute on your dream. Execute on bettering yourself and doing the thing that's going to help you and your family get into that house. And those are the two kind of ways I'd probably answer that question: prepare and execute.
I love it. I love it. And to follow that up, so to that, the young millennial, the Gen Z generation who, again, kind of feels defeated about the possibility of buying a home. And, you said that very eloquently, even prior to this, how you talked about, what home ownership ultimately means, which I think was well said. What's your advice that to the person that says, with rates so high and home prices so high, and I do live in Rhode Island or up in that northeast area, any of the coastal areas, hopefully they don't live in California right now. What would be just kind of your sage wisdom that you're going to give to somebody about that home ownership?
Sage wisdom. Is it because I have the gray hairs in my beard right now? Is
Yeah,
that what's
man, you're
happening
preaching
right
to the
now?
choir on.
I see what's going on here. What would I say to the millennial? Now,
more Gen Z, more like the young.
Oh yeah, I'm millennial. I'm millennial. Like, I'm sorry, I still think I'm young here. Forgive me. The Gen Z. Well, I had a conversation recently. I just overheard some people talking at a Chipotle when I was eating. Believe it or not, you're always as a loan officer, you're hearing a conversation, and someone says mortgage or loan or house or realtor, and you're like, "Hey, did someone talk about this? Let me go on and have a conversation." Anyway, so there were two guys. They were in college. They were both 20 and 21, and they were like, "Man, the housing prices are so high right now. What can we possibly do?" And you know what? Just off the cuff, I said, "Why don't you guys go in together? What's precluding you guys from partnering on your first home, living in your first home, renting that house out once you guys are ready to move out, and then buying your house with the equity that you originated in the beginning? You don't have to go it alone anymore.
Yeah.
And there's creative tools out there and programs out there even to help if you want to go alone, right? So there's different ways that you can think about it, right? I mean, do family members want to help you in the investment of a lifetime? I mean, there was a time back in the day when it was almost expected of the family members, the mother and the father of the house, to help better their kids, right? But there's like some sort of stopgap here where it's like I feel embarrassed asking my mother and my father for help. What? I mean, I'm sorry, but that's what that's what they should be there for anyways, right? Of parents, to help their kids better themselves, especially if they're able to. I'm not saying if you're not able to, mom and dad, that you got to help them. I mean, that's not what I'm saying, but
Right.
at least ask the question, have the conversation on the table. So, there's different thoughts and ways that you can work around it.
I love it. Yeah, just get outside the box. That's the key.
Yeah,
I love it. So, with that said, what are kind of your predictions? What are the trends? Where is the industry going? What do you foreshadow from your experience?
Yeah, well, I laugh at that question because I mean I have so many people ask me that question. And if anyone's been paying attention to the market in the last 2 years, you've had so many people who are supposed to be the people that are to advise us about where the market's going to be going, and they've made predictions. And almost every single time they made predictions, it never worked out the way they were supposed to predict it. So, like for me, it's like whenever I throw on the news, it's like, all right, here's the Wheel of Fortune today, high interest rates. You know what I mean? It's like, so my prediction is this. Let's not predict. Back to my execution. Well, I will be fair. I do think rates are going to ease a little bit at the end of this year, right? I think that the market is looking for more solid direction from anything right now. So I will say that once we get that solid direction, that we do believe at least that the rates, will ease off. We'll have a more stable market. So that is my prediction. I think that's a valid, logical prediction. But I will go back to my word execute. If you like the house, can afford the house, and want the house, buy the house, right? Um, because I think that's the key right there. Other than that, trends, digital transformation and mortgage origination. What does that look like? What does that mean? It means that, like, we want to have more tools as loan officers, as mortgage companies, to provide better care, better transparency, set expectations. So we have these nice programs that really help the client alongside with their decisions, even realtors for that matter. Mortgage Coach, HomeBot, MBS Highway, all of these great tools that we have. And I think that it's evolving because of the fact that I said earlier that we've moved away from that person to person. So we need to get slicker and slicker on our digital footprint when it comes to origination and even underwriting. And that leads to my second one is AI and machine learning and underwriting, right? Making it more predictable. So there's no more like kind of like, it's my opinion that this guideline says this, and then you're sitting there fighting back and forth and all that kind of stuff. So that could be a positive in the future. And then finally, and Fitzer, this more than most, social media growth and evolution, man. I mean, your business is all about social media growth, like building your platform, how to do that. And by the way, I have to plug, you. I mean, it's just, I've learned so much
Thank you.
from your platform, from your business and what you offer. I mean, if anyone's looking to increase their social media platform, I mean, you got to talk to this guy here. I'm telling you what, he knows what he's doing. He's been doing it for a while too. But yeah, so social media growth and evolution, what to say, how to say, when to say, what to say, and how to say it. I mean, all those things are very important because that's how you are perceived in the internet world. And guess what? We are in an internet world.
Amen. Amen. Yeah. Yeah. If you're a real estate agent and you're watching or listening to this, or you catch a clip of this, that's it's a must. In fact, I think even to your point, the digital you mentioned digital transformation, you mentioned AI and machine learning. Those two things are kind of scary. Although that might create some predictability, it'll create some efficiency. That's good for the company owner, not for the employee. And ultimately, because it's going to probably suppress the necessity for humans or at some level. And the only way you can combat that, in my opinion, is through authenticity. And that's one thing that I'm constantly kind of looking at this, saying I got my shield up for defense. And when people say to me, it's like, well, AI is going to replace you. And I'm like, good luck replacing my authenticity and my energy and my passion and the things I know about my community. A robot can't do that and will never be able to do that. So as long as I just stay consistent with it, humans are going to want to interact with humans by and large.
It's true. It's true.
Great answers, man. So let's shift away and wrap this up and wind it down. I am two things I'm a nerd about, just in case you're curious. Sports. So anytime I have a sports guest, I like to talk sports, but also geography. And ironically, in one of our platforms yesterday, I interviewed the #1 real estate agent in South Dakota, which was just off the wall. Like, you don't ever talk to people in South Dakota, right?
Whoa. All four of them were there, huh?
Well, I don't know, but she's a stud.
No, I'm just kidding.
And but Rhode Island is kind of one of those states that, unless you're up in the northeast corridor, it kind of doesn't exist to the rest of us, because to us it's DC, it's New York, it's Boston, right? Are you born and raised in Rhode Island?
Yeah, I am. Yeah, Newport, Rhode Island, born and raised. Yes, sir.
Cool, man. So what's like something that somebody who may not know anything about Rhode Island, what's something that you could tell us about Rhode Island that we may not know?
Any driving distance past 15 minutes is like a deal for us. It's weird. I lived in Texas for a while, right? It's like everything, driving is a normal part of life everywhere else. But if I have to go somewhere in 15 minutes, it's like it's this big ordeal and task. I mean, it's just weird. I mean, that's the mentality that we have, though. We really are the smallest state, and we really have the small, like, it's that kind of mentality that
So
we
it's
have.
like everything is tight and compact, and we expect to
It
live.
is. It is, it's funny because like living in Texas, you kind of get a taste of like what's out there. By the way, food's better in Texas. I don't care. I don't care what you say. Barbecue's better in Texas. Mexican's better in Texas. Sorry, you know what I mean. Newport is not the best restaurant town in the world. Sorry, I have to say that. But Rhode Island is I gotta say, okay, we do have the best beaches. We do have the best tourist area in town. We do have the prettiest, most colonial houses that were developed almost 300 plus years ago, right? So we have that kind of historical footprint that really makes us that special. It's almost like if you were to go down Bellevue Avenue in Newport and you were to take a look at all the mansions that were developed in the Gilded Age, like the Breakers, like Rosecliff, like these wonderful mansions. It's almost like you were transported back in time and you're going down this cobble road and you're looking at how people used to live before 100 years ago. And then, yeah, it's almost 100 years ago since the Gilded Age. It really is that special flavor that allows that. And then you walk down the cliff walk and you have the waves crashing in as you see all these mansions. You say, well, this is what the rich used to live like. And you kind of feel like you're a little rich yourself because you're on the cliff walk. Anyways, I digress. But I think that's our footprint for sure.
That's cool. That's
Yeah.
really cool.
Yeah.
What is the closest big city? Besides Providence, is it Boston or is it New York?
Oh
You're
yeah,
kind
yeah.
of right in between them.
Yeah, so we're like, yeah, I would say that Boston's the next biggest city. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, and because you guys are really close to Martha's Vineyard. I mean, it's almost like I
Yeah.
mean, as the crow flies, it's pretty. It's not too far.
Not at all. Not at all. You can see it from
Really.
the coastline. Yeah, for sure.
That's cool. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
cool. That's awesome. So, with that said, and if you're not familiar with Newport, the first thing I always do anytime I'm talking to somebody in a different market is I'm mapping it. So when I'm looking off screen, I'm looking at a map and just kind of
Oh yeah.
navigating myself. Now, so what does that mean for you in your free time? You mentioned in the beginning, you don't have a lot of free time, so I'm guessing that's going to be part of the answer. So tell us about what you do as just a non-mortgage guy.
Oh well, I mean, so when I have free time, and sometimes I'll in the summertime. So like in the summertime, I have way more free time by design. As you can see, I'm wearing a PGA Tour hat. I love playing golf, and Rhode
Cool.
Island has one of the prettiest golf courses out there. You have lush green, nicely kept golf courses in Rhode Island. I have to plug that. That's a real special time for me. Other than that, in the wintertime, trying my best to go out snowboarding, but you have to go up north for that. But what one thing that I do really enjoy doing that I wanted to plug here because I get a couple of views. I had to do this to help them out. As I'm affiliated with the Providence Rescue Mission. The Providence Rescue Mission is in Providence, Rhode Island, as the name would say, and it's a Christian-based homeless shelter. It provides warming shelters, daily dinners, and a place to stay overnight. And just to show you like the magic behind this started off with a prayer, and now it's one of the largest homeless shelters that's providing meals and shelters for communities and communities and communities. I mean, I got to tell you, you take one day out there and you see the people from all around the community come in to grab their food for the week or the day. It really is something special that all happened with prayer. So what I do is I like to serve over there, and there's many ways that you can serve. So I am going to plug that real quickly. That if you're in the area, we are in a cold snap right now, and the Providence Rescue could use some support. So if you are led to do so, please consider going to providencerescuemission.org. And if you don't have the money to do it, but you have some gloves or hand warmers or any old coats or stuff like that, now's the time. So, I mean, that's what I like to do. And there's my plug for it, my shameless plug.
It's not shameless at all, man. That's really awesome. And so I imagine that you do some charity work, community involvement with the charity. Is that correct?
Yeah. I mean, that's my primary focus right there, and then, also with that is you have, nursing homes too. I mean, the forgotten, I mean, that's another place too, right? You walk into there during Christmas, and that can be a pretty needful place as well, just to have a listening ear, because a lot of people forget about that.
That's
Like
cool.
once you get to that age, and people have a hard time because they're so busy right now with work and stuff. They just want to have somebody to be there and talk to. So yeah.
How far is Providence from where you are?
20 minutes.
That's it. Wow. Okay. Wow. That state really is small.
It is, yeah, really.
That's wild.
Whereas everywhere else in Rhode Island? 20 minutes. Yeah.
That's really cool. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, great, man. So this has been fantastic, and it's good to know that you're a golfer, because so am I. This is actually a golf hat too. This is from my old country club. And if you ever find yourself in the Lake of the Ozarks, which is really my primary home anymore, I live on a golf course there, so we'll have to go out and swing the sticks and have some fun.
By the way, just a question, because I'm also geography too. Is this like where the show Ozarks is based out of?
It was, yeah. It was, well, the show was based off of that area. It was actually shot in Georgia because of film credits, which is, that's pretty common. They say that you're in wherever, but they're actually shooting this, it's somewhere else. But yes, it was based out of the Lake of the Ozarks. That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting.
If the actual show is not anything like it is, the Ozarks is massive. This is not really necessarily probably interesting to anyone necessarily, but it's actually probably one of the most concentrated mass of wealth in the Midwest is at the Lake of the Ozarks, which isn't depicted in that show, but there also is plenty of that backwoods, because the actual Lake of the Ozarks is 93 miles, the main channel, and then there's arms that are as far as 20 miles. So there's more shoreline in the state of California at the Lake of the Ozarks. It's massive. In about a 30-mile stretch, it is loaded. And to many, they hate it for this reason, but like 40, 50, 60-foot yachts and speedboats, and it's wild, absolutely wild. Yeah, it's unlike any other lake that I think exists on the planet, because most lakes are core lakes, and you can't build on them. At the Lake of the Ozarks, you can. So you own a home on the lake, you have your own dock. Like it's wild. It's
that's so cool.
Another conversation.
It's just so everyone here that's hearing this knows, that's in the middle of Missouri. Yeah. No one knows that, by the way. No one knows that there's ocean in Missouri, or
It's actually it's a reservoir. It's a flooded river that was created to create electricity. Yeah,
so
it's pretty wild. Yeah,
so cool.
Well, man, I'm glad you took an interest in that. You're definitely gonna have to come visit me someday, and we'll have to do that. So, but let's get back to you. If somebody wants to connect with you, what's the best way to do so?
Well, I mean, you can give me a call anytime on my cell phone. I'm always available to take any kind of calls that I can. 401-524-1116, and my email, barrett@usamortgage.com. And I'm also on Instagram as well, so you can follow me. Home Loans by Barrett is my name. I'm trying to maybe change that up there, but that's what I got there for my social media. So thanks again. I really appreciate that.
Absolutely. And is that where you're most active, is Instagram?
I try. I'm picking that up. I'm Facebook, Instagram, both of those meta. I'm not sure what we're going to do with TikTok. We're kind of waiting. We're walking on eggshells right now. Right. So no. What are your thoughts on TikTok?
I mean, I think it's wise, if you have an audience like I do, to prepare for the worst. But I think it's just a bunch of political posturing, and I don't think ultimately there'll be some like last minute stay or whatever they call it, and it'll get paused, and then we won't hear about it again until the next time somebody wants to put their name in the news.
Then Elon buys it.
Actually, I was just told the other day that Mr. Wonderful is posturing to buy. The guy from, I can't think of his name, but from Shark Tank. Yeah. So hopefully that happens. I'd be really surprised if it goes away, but I'm prepared if it does. Yeah.
If Mr. Wonderful takes over TikTok, it's like you have a subscription. It's like $20 for a day. You know, he gets 5% royalties if
You know,
you go on for like an
yeah, for
hour,
Shark
you
Tank, yeah.
know.
Believe me, he'll figure out a way to monetize that thing. But
Yes,
yeah,
he will.
it'll be interesting. But go check Barrett out. So Home Loans by Barrett, you said on Instagram,
Yeah.
and then I assume you go by your name. So it's you should go ahead and spell your name for anybody listening on TikTok or on Facebook.
Oh yeah, it's Barrett, and my last name very German, also very, like Missouri. I talked about that earlier. Herminghaus, not House. Yep.
Got it. Awesome, Barrett. It's been a pleasure, man. It's been great
Hey,
to
thanks
get to
so
know
much,
you,
Jeff. I
and thanks for
appreciate it.
sharing.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. Have a great day. Okay.